city glows, but it feels so cold without your touch, your hand to hold. Memories dance in candlelight, fading slow but shining bright. Do you ever dream of me? Do you ever dream of me? Do my whispers call you near? In the night's embrace I wait, hoping love will draw you near. Oh, moon above, tell me true, does she miss me like I do? Through every star my heart still sways, lost in love in yesterday's haze, lost in love in yesterday's haze. The city glows, but it feels so cold without your touch, your hand to hold. Memories dance in candlelight, fading slow but shining bright. Do you ever dream this? Do you ever dream this? Do you ever dream of songs? Do you ever dream this? Day in silence. Your laughter still lingers in my mind, like a melody lost in time. The night is long, the world moves slow, but your voice still calls. I don't let go, though you're gone. I feel you near, a ghost of love, so bright, so clear. Oh, in the midnight rain you call, a fading touch, a love so tall. Through time and tide, through stars that glow, I still hear whispers soft and low. Footsteps in moonlight, shadows that dance, memories linger, won't let go tonight. I chase your touch in dreams so deep, but wake to find I'm left alone. Footsteps in moonlight, shadows that dance, memories linger, won't let go tonight. I chase your touch in dreams so deep. to find I'm left alone.
Hi, everyone. Good day to every one of us, and I welcome you to our session today. I trust we are all doing well. I know it's been a while, and I trust you've been keeping well and learning as well, right? The past 2 weeks been so busy for me, right? Um, kind of working on one interesting engagement, so and it was really eating into my weekend as well. So sorry about that, guys, and thanks to everyone that took their time to check in. I'm good. I'm good. It's part of our work. I'm sure people that work in Big Four can relate, right? So, out of the busy schedule, we still manage to create time for ourselves. So, thanks for everyone for being present, and thanks for uh, valuing these resources. Rights. Okay, so now let's continue from where we stopped in the previous session. What did we do in our previous session? I hope we still remember. Can anyone help us with that? What did we do in our previous session? Let me be sure we are still on the same page. I know most times it's not good to have a gap when you're having a your learning curve, right? So we discussed our information request list. Basically, how to develop your information requests, right? What are the things that need to go into it? The reason why you are asking those information. And remember, as we said, your client is your number one source of information. So we had people that were able to get their homes submitted. And today, what we'll be doing is we'll be so we are going to do it in a very dynamic way. All right. And please, I want us to really take this serious. So you also realize that number has dropped significantly, right? I didn't want to chase people away from onset. So I decided to make that very open. And I'm sure as time goes on, we see people that are really are committed from onset. Remember our rules, no room for excuse. So now today we should be able to start with our model build from a blank Excel, right? We've taken you through the basic understanding, more like from an accountant towards to a modeling perspective, and what are the things we are trying to do. So as I said, let me check that previous document. I think we used that in session 3, right? Where we had like a typical accounting case study. They are this same work file, right? And we were able to move from a perspective of an accountant preparing a financial statement historically to you being able to make use of that same data to forecast into the future, right? So as I said, this case study, this document is very key. It's very important because definitely we'll be using this in our model build. So I believe with our model build should be quite easy for every one of us. So welcome again to our session. So today, uh, reviewing information request lists, right? And that's where you get started with your model build, and you know that hey, it seems I have a lot of work to do. And if you check the information request list, it's kind of also help you to know that okay, maybe I have little on no work to do, right? Just focus on the model build. But reviewing the information request list, and you see that the client has not been able to provide those information. I got some information request list from you guys, and some were kind of exclusive, some were quite professional, some were straightforward, some were very concise, then some were out of the line. In fact, funny thing is someone had to go and copy one of the case study I developed and it submitted it to me like that. I'm like, okay, I love that kind of game, right? So see, it's your skill. Once you have it, you have it. The fact that I'm teaching you, it's actually not taken out from me, right? It's in me, it's my skill. I have it. So develop it, it becomes your own. So let's see from information request list, how do we extract that into our as how do we extract that in creating our assumptions? How do you need to follow a financial modeling standard, professional best practice when you are setting up your model build, right? So I think let's go straight direct into it. Now, this is what we are going to do. We use so I just luckily I got one model engagement from a client, right? Now, because we have people from different regions, so what we're going to do is let's use at least a currency that everyone can relate to it. Now, while we are building that together, this is what I want you to do. The same information request list that you created, because most times it's always good you have the taste of, of what you kind of do to others, right? So that's your same information request list that you've developed. I remember I mentioned that try and fill in those information request list that you've created. Try and fill it. Some people just sent information request list, just some line item, no response, nothing to it. So now the task will be we build together using our own case study, and you will use your own information request list to also develop your own side model. So which means in this session we are going to have two, you're going to build two models. So one will be the one we'll be building together in the class, right? And the second one will be your own that you are building with that information request list that you developed. So now, because at times you send it to a client, then the client just feel reluctant to give you that information, which is the same thing some of you guys did when you submitted your information request list. So imagine you send information request list to clients send it back to you like that, right? So do that, use that your same case study to build your own model. So let's go ahead. Let me share the link to this document we'll be using for session today. I'll drop that in the chat box. So, and I think it will be very good like that. So maybe the case we are solving together in the session, right, might not have some things you experience when you are building your home personal model. So as such, it will be very easy for us to relate. You ask a question, people can contribute, and I think we also have like our WhatsApp group now, so that kind of make it easier for. I think we have a less number of people, so it's still easy for us to manage ourselves in the group chat as compared to the previous number that we have. So please click on the link and drop that in the chat box. So you have 3 documents. One, 3 an information request list. So please go ahead. So immediately, so open the link, save the documents on your computer. They can come back to my screen and maybe just give like a thumb up so that I'm sure we are on the same page. This once you have it, open the 01 file. Then maybe come to the chat box and type open or just give a thumb up so that I'm sure we are all on the same page. All right. So please open the document, and this is what I want you to do. As I said, the first task is what reviewing the information request list, and for you to be able to understand what the business will be doing. So what I'll do is I'll give us like three 3 minutes, or let's say 5 minutes, right? Please read through this information request list, and you can see it's quite concise, straight to the point. Some of you, your questionnaire was somewhere like 2-3 pages, right? Management, I'm not sure they even have time to kind of uh, get into things like that. And secondly, if you check the Excel file, so you see another Excel file, which is more like another sample of information request list. So this is in Word document. So the other Excel file, so check the other Excel files. This is more like a version in Excel. So you can see just straight to the point without unnecessary story. You can see this one is just 3 questions. So question 1, investments, general information about the business, describe what the business is doing, how much are you looking to invest, source of the funding, right? And how you plan to make use of the fund. Forecast data, breakdown of how you'll be generating revenue, tell us your costs, right? So you can see the Excel, concise, straight to the point. They say the better the question, the better the answer, and the better our word works, right? I hope I said that correctly. So you don't need to put unnecessary question, because once the question is too much, it makes it difficult for your users, right? Management, they are busy. They don't understand your own financial uh, jargons and the whole thing. They trust you to be the professional. They even believe you should be able to get the data yourself, but still you need them. So as such, you must be able to put the information request list in such a way that you're able to get it. Okay, so and some another option is there are cases where maybe the client might not be able to provide the whole information. So what you do is you first set up your assumptions input in Excel, and you share it with them for them to confirm if they agree with some of the inputs, if they want to add to it and things like that. You can be very dynamic when it comes to that, right? Where case where you say that the management have not been able, they've not been able to provide the all information all at once, right? You do like a draft input, and you can share that with them to confirm and realign, so that you sure you're on the same page. When you build model, it's always good you carry your client along. Okay, so let me be quiet for like 3 minutes. Please read through this information request list. So as remember, as you are reading, you are asking. Remember the whole objective. We want to do what? We want to build a 3 financial statements, right? So as you are reading, you are asking this line item, which information is it giving me in my financial statements? Why do I need this? What do I need this for? What do I need this for? How will this flow into my 3 financial statements? So please let me give it a few time to read through. All right. So I think you should have a clue as to what the business is into. Do we all agree with that? So please, can you type in the chat box, what do you think the business is into? What do you think the business is into from the information provided? So most times, if you want to understand what a business, what they do, just look at how they generate revenue, right? So you want to understand what this business is into, look at how they generate revenue and their direct costs. That should give you more like overview of what they do. Yeah, so bread production, right? Bakery. Okay. Now, US. So as I said, forgive me if you are using a country outside your own country region, right? We have people from different region in this session, so it's always good for us to just use at least the currency everyone can relate with. Okay. So now we have our information. As I said, luckily, how much investment do you want to raise? 250 USD. Do you have previous investments? Yeah, they've spent some money on research and business development. So what is the funding plan? You want to use a mixture of loan and investor contribution. And for the loan, they hope to pay back in 4 years. And for the equity, maybe they are willing to give like 30% profit sharing ratio. It's a startup, so I'm sure there's nothing. The discussion of uh, shares and all those things might not come in now, or maybe that might not be your home priority, right? You just need this to be able to calculate the what's accrued to the owner of the business, right? The equity holder. So give a breakdown how you plan to make use of the fund. Then your business operation, list the costs, expected customer base and expected customer growth. Plan for staffing. Now they gave us the number of staff they want, but they didn't give us the respective amount, right? And that's where our homework comes into play. So there are times they can just give you. So imagine they gave us the name of the product and they didn't give us the price. So those are things you always see when when clients kind of feel your data, because maybe the model you are building is also meant to be part of it. Okay. So can you list the expenses you anticipate? So most times you might not even be able to get some of this. You look for a similar company, maybe like a public company that kind of do the same thing, and you can look at their financials and maybe use that as a gauge, right? Might be very difficult at times, but it's part of the reason why you are a modeler, to be able to create those sets of assumptions. So let's get started straight. And as I said, so okay, for the Excel file, so you can also see how this has been summarized into just 3 points. So please always make sure of that. The more concise and straightforward your information request is, the better for the client. Because when imagine a client see this and you just need to answer 3 points, it's easy for them to look through. They really don't have that much time, right? Or this, I even feel this kind of, but this is just a page, so it's still easy for them. And those questions are very short. How much investment do you want to raise? What's the funding plan? So quite straightforward. Don't put an unnecessary story. They don't have that much time. Okay. Now let's get started. And straight, we'll be starting with our blank Excel. So we are going to the practical aspect of it, and we are putting together everything we've taught ourselves from session 1 to 3. We want to put it into into practical model build from scratch. Remember, this is for a startup business that has no historical data, has nothing. All right. So now I'll start with my sheet 1. Maybe I'll just okay, so this one, let me put this as a section. So I'll call this inputs. Maybe just draw like 2 arrows. Okay. So you can always color a sheet. So I can right click on it and I'll see my tab color. So maybe just put that in black. Right. So what this just give like a segmentation. So I can add one worksheet here and call this input. input, or maybe call it assumption, either way. But I think input is fine. Input. You can see that. So I think this should be input. Okay, yeah. Input, which is more like a segment. And here you have the input, the main worksheet that will be the input. So it's always good you create something like a section like that. So if I duplicate this, you then have a section you call your calcs, your calculations, right? Calcs. I also put like that same arrow there. Just kind of looks just you being professional. It's really nothing serious, right? So at times you can have multiple inputs if you are dealing with a startup that has like well detailed data and you don't want to put everything inside one worksheet. What you can do is you can just, so maybe this become input one, and you have like input two, and they kind of have different input assumptions, right? We call that more like a segmentation. Okay, so now let's go straight. So for this, I don't usually like this grid line, right? So to remove the grid line, you just go to your view, right, and remove grid line. I know some people kind of like the grid line, so either way for you, right? So now let's set up our input worksheet. Let's set up our input worksheet. Let's set up our input worksheet. So the first thing I will do is this my column A, B, C, right? I'm going to highlight the three columns together, right? And we will reduce this. So by the time you are reducing it, you will see that you will see the width of each column, right? Numbers are column in Excel, right? So just try and reduce it to, let's reduce it to something like 1. Yes, let's reduce it to 1. So the first 3 columns, so setting up your model workbook. So column A, B, C, let's reduce that. So you might be wondering why are we doing that, right? So it's always good. So column A just becomes something like header 1, right? Then column B just become header 2, right? And column 3 just become header 3. So you just kind of read like the way you have a book, right? So you have section, subsection, subsection, right? Or maybe chapter, section, then subsection. So that's the reason why we are collapsing these 3 columns, right? Right. So I believe if you are here in our session, I'm sure your Excel skills should be, the efficiency use of your Excel should have increased, right? It's part of the learning. Then maybe column D. So column D, let's increase column D to maybe should we do this? Let's increase that the width to something like with 15 do. So 15. Why can't I get 15 on the dot? What is happening? Okay, seems it's hard to get 15, and I don't want to. Okay, so I think my own is taking me to something like 15.1 more. So either way, it's for you. If you can get 15 on the dot, that would be nice. I think luckily for me, I can only get. Let me see. I can't get 15 on the dot. Okay, well, I just put, so mine is 15.11. So closest number to 15. That, I think that should do. All right. Okay. So maybe we can even do like should we do, okay, something like an example or something like that. So maybe I will share a video with you on how to preset your workbook, right? More like how do you create like a, okay, I think that will even be good. I have one video like that. Yeah, right. How to create a model template in a professional format. Yeah, I'll share that with you, right? Just sure we have much time to do that here. So let's start from our column B. I think B8 is fine. B8 is fine, right? B8 is fine. So maybe I'll just put it as my number 1, right? And here will just be general information. So this should just be like general information. So it'll be like general information, right? So you can always leave like a row below. So maybe put this as 1.1. So 1.1. So that means I need to expand the column B and column C just for the number to show. And here, let's just call this about business. So all we want to do is we want to put in our information about the business, right? So as a modeler, typing should be the least worry you must have, right? Typing should be able to type very fast. So about the business, when I can decide to make the font maybe like a color blue, right? The font of my text, then the font of the second one. Maybe I'll make this something like, let me see. So maybe like another light, a bit light blue. Yep. Right. And here I can put business name. So business location. Let's put information about the business first. So business location, right? Maybe business, do we need to repeat business? Let's just put location, and then let's put industry. I think this should be about the business, right? So let's be professional. I will reduce my column E, and we reduce that to something like 1 point. So maybe, yeah, something like 1 point. And here I can put my business name. So I can go to my information request list. What's the name of our business? Van Baker Limited. So Van Baker Limited, right? Try to expand that. We can even leave it like that for now. So our location is in US. So maybe Colorado, USA. Then the industry. Okay, let's just put that on that bakery. I know there's, I think there's industry name for this kind of business, but let's just put it like this, right? Then below, let's just call this more like, let's have our timing. So call this, just leave a row, just try to be very, very professional, let it look very neat, right? So here, let's call this model starts. Now let's call it forecast start date. Forecast start date, right? So maybe let's say 01/01/2026. This will be starting in 2026. Format it to show in dates. Okay, so forecast start dates. Then below it, let's just have forecast. Let's call this forecast end date. Yeah. Good afternoon, Mr. Vito. I'm practically busy at work. Will the recording be made available on your YouTube channel? No, it will not be made available. So forecast end date, let's just put that. Then below, let's have like a general period. So a month in a year. So that will be 12 months, right? 12 months. So what we can do is we can use this column E more for our unit sign. So maybe we'll call this dates. Then same thing, dates here. Then this is just something like hash. Okay. So if you're asking, will the recording be made available? Don't you think I could have decided to just be doing the recording and dropping it on on YouTube, right, and be available to the whole public. So the objective was not to make this available to all. It's a mentorship, it's a guide. So if I will still need to we do the live session, I still need to still go ahead with the YouTube and be putting it there. Don't you think I should just maybe we should just close the live session, right? And we should just close the live session and I should just be doing the recording, right? And be putting it out there for people. So if I wanted to do that, that would have been very easy thing. In fact, I would have done that in the previous council session. So the objective is not to throw it out to the wind, right? It's to be specific and focus on people that we want. So sorry about that, but if you guys will actually prefer that, I'll just do like a self-recording and drop it on the YouTube, and you can always uh, watch it on your own and things. Yeah, that maybe that might even work for me. I just need to do like 30 minutes or 1 hour recording, and everyone can go and watch it online. We don't need to hold the live session. Or do you guys prefer that? I don't mind. All right. So now, one of our financial modeling best practices saying, whenever you are trying to build a model, right, that we should try to be able to do something that will enable our users to understand and differentiate different data in our model. And most time when you are building a model, we have what we call cell style, right? And when we say cell style, what cell style is saying is, so let me just do like a rough sample here. So we have, whenever you are building your model, most times you always have something you call input, right? So input are more like your hard-coded cell. For example, I type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's input, right? Then you can have calculation cells. You can have calculation cells, basically, so that you have to do maybe this cell plus 1, right? Which is more like a calculations, right? And then maybe you have your something like your linked cells. So maybe you link a cell from another worksheet. So if I link this to this, which means I'm linking it from another cell now, even though they are all giving me like an output, right? But it's very difficult for someone to differentiate between which one was hard coded, which is this, which one was getting due to the result of formula or function or calculation, and which one was linked from another cell. So it's very difficult because they're all maintaining the same front. Now, our modeling standard is now saying, okay, you know what you can do? You see those ones that are inputs, you can decide to put it in something like maybe a specific color, right? Maybe your calculation, you leave it the way it is. Maybe your link cells, you also decide to put those ones in, let me even say I'm using like a deep red color. Now, you know what this translates into? It gives a description so that someone understand that even if they see this guy in 20 different cells, they automatically know that, oh, definitely these are hard-coded cells that can be changed, right? If they see this guy in another cell, they automatically, oh, these are more like calculations. So even if it appear everywhere, it's easy for them to know. And they can see that, oh, this guy, they are all linked cells, irrespective of where they are in the model, right? Which is part of what we use in evaluating a good model build. So they don't need to call you. You can build the model and they can pick up the model and understand, oh, these are input data, these are calculation data, these are linked data, right? So it's always good when you are building your model to also make sure you create that cell style. Now, luckily, Excel has its own cell style. So if you go to your home tab, you see your font, you see alignment, then you see this guy number, and you see this guy called style, right? So you can see this guy called cell style. So you can see it on that style, right? But the one we are using, the one we need is this guy called cell style. So you can see cell style, cell style. So if you click on the drop down option, these are more like pre-cell cell style that you can use in your model build. Now, it's always good you kind of use like a preset model cell styles where you have the right, you can modify it in the way you want, right? So that, and one good thing about that is if you preset them, right? Maybe you want to change the front, the way some things appear in the model. It's easy for you to change it once and it will change across everywhere you've used it in your model without you having to change it one after the other. But for our session today, as I said, I will share the recording, and I think we also did like some self-style learning there, so it will be very easy for you to grab that. But for our home, what we are going to do is let's just use like a unique color, right? So for our inputs, I think we should go with something like this light blue. I think we should go with like a blue color. Trying to see, okay, let me go to more color and let's look for this bright blue. Yep. So all those ones that were hard coded, so you can decide to even color this the cell if you want, right? So for example, maybe I want to color it to always appear like this, maybe with a tick with border, so that it just kind of appear like this. So if you want, you can always explore that on your own, but be very, very professional with it. Basically, as though standard is saying you should try and make inputs blue and some other thing, but you are still free to go with what you want. But for this, let's make use of this our blue front, right? Any hard coded, let's put it like that. Okay, so months in a year. So let's say below, we need days in a year as well. So let me put this. So the hash basically mean these are more like a normal text or a number. So please, as you are doing it, if you have any question, just let me know. Okay, so now let's create our forecast date. So let me go to I'm coming input. Okay, so let's come to column. So I'll come to column J where I have my forecast end date, right? So let's create like our forecast timeline. So, and that will be equal to my forecast start date minus 1, right? That will give me 31st December 2025. And I'll go to the following date and type equal to my previous date plus 1. So that will give me the January. And the reason why you are doing this is you need to be consistent with left to right formula approach when you are building your model. So here, this basically represents base period. Base period, same thing as year 0, right? Okay, so we've done that. Please, if you have any question, please ask. Don't worry. Even if it's a silly question, if it's a nonsense question, out of nonsense, there's sense, right? I've learned so much from people asking. To them, it seems reasonable, but somehow, usually kind of raise good points. Okay, so forecast start dates, then you know how to do the end dates. Let's go ahead. You know how to use EO months. Some people use EO E dates, but I think EO months. So equal to EO month is asking for the start date. So select the previous ending date of that 31st December, comma, and our month is this 12 month that we've typed here. So remember, because it's a single input cell, remember to lock that particular cell. Right, I think we've captured cell references, so this should be straightforward. Enter, then format it to appear in dates. And you can copy this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need this for 5 years. So it should appear like this. So maybe below it, let's have our year count year. So let's also have the year. And to do that, you just use your formula equal to year. So what year does is kind of help us extract year from a date. So year, can use the start date or ending date to copy that to the right. So that gives us the year. And below it, let's have our period counter. The period counter is just equal to previous period plus 1. Right. So you can see it always creates that that style so that it's easy. Everything that we have here, they are all formulas, right? So maintain them in that black color, right? So if you don't like, you can remove the grid line, right? And if you want the grid line, you can leave it. Depends on you. Okay. So I can even, let me reduce this, my column H and high for now. And I'll need them later. Then for the days in the period, so to get the days in the period, that will be equal to my current end date minus my previous end date, and that should give us our days in a year. Have any question? Let me know. If we're moving too fast, please let me know as well. The formula for the date, yeah. So just type EO month, EO month, EO month, EO month, EO month, EO month. If you're in this session, you should know Excel, basic Excel. If not, please revisit. So EO month. So I said first thing is the base period. I said I'm using column J, and I think you should try and let's use the column. Yeah, it's part of the learning. Sorry. So my forecast period. Yeah, so I said the hash could be something like text or numbers, right? So really not sure. Alvin, what sign do you want to put for text? So it could be used for text or some static number. So come to the forecast end period. I said my forecast start date -1. So that will give us 31st December 2025. And for the first period, equal to my previous period +1. That will give us this. Then equal to, for the end date of that period, just use EO month. So the start date is the previous period end date. But I think if you're using E date, you start with the start date. So EO months of previous end dates, comma, then my month in a period in a year, which is 12 months, right? Because we are building annual forecast, and you can drag that for the first 5 years. The concept of left to right consistency. So always remember, always check is garbage in, garbage out. You do mistake in your formula, you get the same output. Right? So say for the year, just type year in Excel as a formula, year, and select the date. So that just extract the year. For the period counter, you just need something to give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the first period is automatically period 0. So come to first forecast period and type previous period +1. Right? And you have 1 to 5. So days in a period, you just previous current period end date minus previous end date. You copy that across, left to right consistency, put the formula in year 1 and copy it across. So moving fast, yes. Sorry guys, it's part of the learning. Need to move fast as well. Okay. I'm just slowing down for you guys, but please, you need to be very fast. It's just part of it. Then the third thing, let's put our sales tie maybe below it, right? So 1.3. So we call this self. I think some people call it model navigation or something, but let's call it sales tie. Sales tie, and we can put so input cells, right? Input cells. So you can type like 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like an example, you can put the color and also give like a description, right? So maybe hard coded values that can be changed, that can be changed, right? So you can decide to reduce the font and we'll make maybe the color like a faded ash color, right? Because it's just like a note and comment, right? Then maybe calculation cells. So just type number 1 to comma 4 5, right? And here just put so maybe results of formula, result of formula, function or calculations, right? And the third one is our linked cells. So you can have as many cell styles as that. By the time I share the video with us, should be able to try and go through it. Then maybe for our link cell style that are linked from another cell. So the reason why I don't usually like using red from my link cell style is because you have a negative value. And most time negative value will be something like in red. Right. So I don't usually like using this red of a theme. So let's look at which other color can we use. Okay, so maybe we should use this orange. Will green be a good color? It might not be visible enough. Right. But I think we can still use blue, but maybe we use another light blue. It can be confusing having multiple blue. So maybe we should use something like this orange, maybe like a deep orange color. Yeah. Orange accents to darker to 25%. Okay, yeah. So maybe this just should be it then. Just put data linked from another cell or worksheet. So you can put your own descriptions, not a must you follow the way I've put my own. You can use your own the way you prefer to have it. All right. So you can see, be very, very professional when you are doing your what? When you are building your model. And I said, I'm more of a model built from scratch. I'm not a template modeler, right? Yeah, you can have like a structured template that, oh, whenever I want to build a model, this is the way I do the layout, right? The coloring, the whole thing, the shape, and the structure, right? But always build your model from the scratch. It's always a good thing, right? So I think we are making progress. So if you remove the grid line, it should look very good. If you prefer, you can put it back as well. All right. Any question before we continue? I think it's quite straightforward. Okay, so let's add something to here. Let's add something here. So let's look at the model input now. Okay, so let's call this model currency. So model currency, and I think this should be in USD. So model currency, then maybe you can have model currency unit. So maybe this will be in USD, but maybe in 1,000. So let's add that to about business. So model currency, model sign. Let's call this currency sign. So USD, then model currency. Maybe if you decide to present it in 1,000 units. Okay, so I hope we are good. Any question? Any question? Any question? It's quite straightforward, right? I see that it's very easy. Any question? Any clarification needed before we continue? All right, so assume there is no question. Okay, now, first thing is we've reviewed our information request list, right? You have some issue with if formula is showing. Did you try to expand your formula? Did you try to expand your columns? Basic Excel, please. So if I have something and it's showing like this, what's the first thing that I need to do? Definitely I need to expand my column. Then if I now expand it and it's still showing that hash, then that means there's issue with the formula and you need to just check it again. Now, the next thing is for us to do what? To now create. So we started with our blank workbook, right? Now let's review our business and accounting cycle and how we said we are going to incorporate that into our model build. So first thing is we have understood what the business is into, what they want to do or what they will be doing, right? Then the next thing is our general and macro economic assumptions. So we've done our general assumptions. So what's the next thing that we need to do? What's the next thing that we need to do? What's the next thing that we need to do, guys? So we've done our general assumptions, right? What's the next thing? So we need to go straight to our what? Our macro assumptions. Now, before we do that, you see this, our timeline headline that we created here, right? These four guys, this forecast start date, forecast end date, year, and period counter, right? What we need to do is we need to bring it up here. We need to link it to come up here. So what I'll do is my column high, I'll put my start date, right? Maybe align it to my right. Then I'll put my end date, then this will become I need my year, right? So the period that we've created here under this time will be what will be on all our worksheets across, right? So your model must maintain the same structure across. Then here become our period counter, right? Align it to the right as well. And I can go ahead and now link them to what we've created below. So link them directly and copy that to the right. Right. Then maybe my hop here, column A1, that'll become my business name. And increase the fonts, make it bold. If you want the color to put color you like, then this, then maybe the second column, just call this our inputs and assumptions. Right, so maybe I can put this in something like a deep red. It just look like this. Some people like using color. If you want color, that's fine. But if you don't want color, just put something like a tick border line. Put like a tick border line. And if you are more of the color person, you can try and explore, maybe if you can get like a professional, maybe like a light blue color, but don't make it look unprofessional, right? And if you prefer to, some people prefer to use like a deep color, so maybe deep blue and white. If you want that, that's fine. So it depends on you, right? But what's my own preference? I don't even know right now. I don't even know what my own preference is, but maybe I will go with this light blue. And if I remove the green line, they kind of look good like this. And what you can freeze your panel. So come to a column below it, go to my view, you can see this guy called freeze panel. I'm sure you guys should know how to use freeze panel. So that by the time I scroll down, see that everything on top from row 1 to 5, they are freezed at the top to make it look good, professionalism. Actually, I feel this particular step is burning, but it's critical at the same time. We can say that again. Right, because having to preset your model document and the whole thing. So at times that's why you can have like a preset document, right? Where you've created all this already. Then maybe anytime you have a model, you just pick that template, you just pick it up and you start creating all your input and the whole thing. But nobody will create your model template and structure for you. You just have to do it. It's one of those things. Okay. Because trust me, because building a model is more like you doing a presentation. So it must always look good. That's first thing. That's how you get to know a good model. Yep. Okay. So what we can do is let's duplicate this input. This input that we created. Let's duplicate it. Let's duplicate it. I'm sure you know how to duplicate. So you can use a shortcut or just right click and see move or copy. So click on it and just type create a copy and click on OK. So you can move this out. Maybe you call this, let's call this more like a sample. So anytime we need the worksheet, we can always reuse it and you can delete everything from business name in your sample worksheet too. So you delete it and you can relink this guy. So relink it to the input date that we created, right? So relink it straight to the data, to the one we created. So anytime we need this worksheet, we can always duplicate this and use it for anything we want. So let me also link this to the business name, everything linked to input. Right, so just you having that sample worksheet that you can always duplicate for anything we want. All right, hope you are good. Hope you are good. Any question before we go to the next thing, which will be our macro data? Okay, so now let's go straight. So I'm going to copy this my either one and either two, so I don't, and maybe leave like a 2 row, and this will become our macroeconomic assumptions, right? And the first, so this become number 2, then number 2.1, right? So here, maybe we'll call this our costs. Let's call this cost inflation, or cost. Let's call it cost incremental factor, incremental rate. So maybe we call this inflation forecast, right? Then I'm sure this will be in percent. Then copy the same thing, leave a row, and maybe we'll call this our pricing. Let's call this pricing incremental factor. Okay, and think we need the other thing we will need will be our 2.3 will be our. So there's a way you can kind of automate this number, but don't let me scatter the class. Let's just keep it simple and basic. Then maybe this become our tax rate, right? Maybe corporate tax rates. And this is not limited, so any data we need, we can always come back here and include it as we need them in our model build. But I think these three are the basic one. Do we need any other one? Do we need any other one? Okay, so I said typing should not be the problem. Be able to type very fast. Don't worry, at least see the fact that you are in this session, and I think that's one of the reasons I created the WhatsApp group. So you guys will have access to the recording, but it will not be available to the public. Right. Yeah. So after the session, I will just think maybe I'll put it on our group and you'll be able to access it. So I know some of you might not be as fast as some of us in the session. They might have network issue, everything. So we'll still be considerate. Okay, now let's get our inflation forecast. And to do that, which is where part of the work of a modeler starts from. So as a modeler, you are also a research analyst expert. You cannot run away from it. So what I'll do is I'll go to my cron. You are not in the group. Then how did you get into this meeting? Because I'm sure, at least, did someone want to help me answer this? How did you guys get into the group? And someone is saying, so I'm not on the group. Let me see, how many people do we even have in our group now? So level 1, we have 35 members, and here we have 40 people. How? See, some people they don't read their email, and that's what you can see here. This is also part of the learning, right? Attention to details. You were sent an email, read through everything from A to Z. Don't assume, oh, it's just a meeting invite and you drop it. Okay. So now, first thing is I'll come in here. Considering our business is operating in US, so which means we need a USA forecast inflation rates for the next 5 years. Right? Let me search for that. Now, for some of us that will work in big organization and we have access to different data sources, right? It's always good to use more trusted data sources, but where you are limited, I think you can still use Statista. So if I click on my Statista, right, and this is what will happen, and it's going to give me my inflation forecast over the next 5 years. So our forecast is starting 2026, right? So think from 2026, I think it's more of the same across. So 2.1%. So come to your model and type 2.1%. To put that, remember the color of our input cell style. Copy that across. Okay. Please do the same thing. Do the same thing. Go to your desktop and type the same thing, so that you will not come back and ask where did we get the data from. So at times you might need to even copy the data link. All right. So you might want to, you can decide to put it here, but most times this is not always good, especially if you format, if you are going to format your workbook to a printable format. I'm sure by the time you watch the video on setting a model template, you'll be able to see how to make your model print, set your model in a printable manner, right? But maybe some other time, other thing you can do is, so instead of typing it like this, you can just put, maybe type data source link, right? You put it like this and you create something like hyperlink. So this is your website that you've created here. So you put it here. You can right click and you see this guy called link. So once you click on the link, right, just paste the address and click on OK. So instead of this guy showing this long, so they just see this data source link. And once they click on the data source link, just automatically take them straight to the web page. So this is always good, right? So that when you build your model, just try as much as possible to provide answers to different questions that might be asked, right? Because definitely you don't want someone to now be calling you and they're asking you, where did you get this your inflation rate from? So once they see the data source link, you should just click on it. So you can put it at the end, even put it here, anywhere, but just make sure you create that data source link, right? I'm sure that's quite easy. Okay. Now I know for the, because this is more like a developed country, so we always see more like a single digit inflation rate. So what do we mean by single digits inflation? So if you round this up to one decimal, this is what we call single digits. But for some developing country, you'll be seeing something like 15.5, 12 point something, 25, 20 as well. This is what it is. So for the incremental rate, for the pricing incremental rate, now we have different method that we use for the inflation rate forecast. And I'm sure everyone knows the reason why we are using, why we need this our inflation rates, cost incremental rate, pricing incremental factor. I believe everyone knows that. No one should ask me why do we need it? What do we need it for? Okay, so for the pricing, most times based on the concept of our forecasts, it's saying most time when we build our model that we should try and over forecast costs and under forecast revenue. So that by the time you get to the reality of it, it's always good it turns the other way around. You don't have to spend almost up to the amount you've budgeted for, and you're able to make more than you expected. Let me say that again. Try to over forecast costs and under forecast revenue. So which means be conservative with your revenue assumptions and be aggressive with your cost. So that it's better when you now start the operations, right? Your cost is not up to what you forecasted, but your revenue can still go beyond what you forecasted, just to be able to manage the risk. So for the pricing incremental rates, most times we can use something like a country GDP rates, right? If it is below inflation rate, we can use something we call CPI index, right? But we've seen cases where CPI index can also be higher than cost incremental factor. So let's check. But most times can also be very difficult for you to get the CPI forecast rate if you don't have access to all those big data source. So let's say USA CPI index forecast. So index is more like CPI is basically consumer price index, which kind of drive the way price increase over a particular period. Right. So let's check this. Now, most times you always see they're always in something like 3 points, like a whole number. So you can see this one 316, 323, 329. So what to just convert it into percent, just divide it by 100. So which means this 329 it basically means 3.2982. Right. The next one is 3.3765. Now see that slightly this is a bit higher than our inflation rate, right? Which is not what we want, right? Because we're saying let's try and be conservative with our pricing. So if you are putting 3.3, which definitely that will be higher than inflation rate, and that will try a model off against the reality of what we want, right? So let me see, let's see what is US. So what the other thing we also do is we kind of look at, okay, no, don't let's go there yet. So let's see US GDP growth rates. So 2.9, right, which is also seems to be a little bit higher than our inflation rate. So what we're going to do is let's peg this down to, so and the third option is where you use the same driver of our what is driving costs to also drive the revenue. So which means cases where you kind of see this kind of differentials, right? You usually see this in developed country, but in developing country, hardly will you be able to see that, right? Where CPI is even greater than inflation rates and GDP greater than inflation rate. So for this, let's peg this to 2%. Let's peg this to 2%, and there are cases where you even use the same rate, right? Say what drives cost, drive price. So we are saying they will be able to transfer the increment in cost to client. If they do that kind of, there's some kind of business like that, any increment in costs also drive increment in pricing. So those cases we say, what drive cost also drives pricing. Okay. Is there any question? I hope my explanation were quite straightforward. Okay, then the next one is what is USA corporate tax rates. So that's 21%. And I can copy this, and here we have our 21%. Right? So maybe you want to add the data source, you can also add that if you want. So quite straightforward. Inflation 2.1 across. Can I explain the CPI again? No, guys. I'm using I took my time in doing this explanation. I don't maybe when you are watching the recording again. When you are watching the recording again, you can listen to it. Yeah. Guys, it's not easy to be talking after if I had like a full stress week. Right. Please don't let me re-explain that. Okay, all right. So and for us to even see like a very good example, right? So let's check, let's see what I'm saying. So let me say if I go online, right, and let me search for Nigeria. I'm sorry guys, I'm from Nigeria. So Nigeria inflation forecast for the next 5 years. Let's look at what that will give us. So now let's look at Nigeria inflation rate. So 2026, 14.46, 27, 14, 28, 14. Now, if I look at, so let's assume I'm bidding for a business that is operating in Nigeria, right? And now, I want to get the CPI, right? So let me say Nigeria CPI index, though it's not like we are repeating the same thing. So Nigerian CPI index forecast. So I'm not sure someone can even get it here. No. So most time this kind of data, you kind of get it in a more reliable data sources, right? But you can see now the CPI is projected to trend around 140.4. So basically this is more like 14.0 and 16.1. I think that's still more like inflation, but let's check. Okay, yeah, so you can see this is saying as at February 2025, the CPI is 112.9, which is basically 11.2. So that's still below our inflation inflation rates, right? So as I said, cases where CPI is above inflation rates, more like related to advanced country. Okay, so that's just like an example for us to see. And you can see like a double digits inflation rate. All right, so are we good? Are we good? Are we good? If we need any other thing, we can always come back to add them. So maybe because of segmentation sake, we can add the border to our main header, so that is easy to differentiate. So the one, and the one which is the second one, can just add like a tick border around it. All right, so now we've extracted our general macro assumptions. Then the next thing is what? Is to extract our financing assumptions. Now, there's really no compulsory structure that you must use in setting up your model input. So you can decide to even start with your revenue assumptions. You can start with your capex assumption. It just depends, but you can always make it a storyline, and that's one of the reasons I always just make sure it kind of flow with the story of our business cycle, right? Identify the general, the macro, the timing, and the thing. The next thing is the first cash that comes into the business. If you prefer to start with revenue, it depends on how you decide to tell the story. So for the third one, let's go straight into our funding. So here I'm going to call this number 3. This will be my funding. This will be my funding assumptions. And here, sources of funds. Okay. If I go to my questionnaire, first thing is, how much investment do you want to raise? 250 USD, right? So total investments required. Now, so just link this to my currency. There are cases where you use like a name and but as I said, let's keep things simple. Don't let us scatter the class. All right. So here, it's always good you put it under each period. Right? So I'll type 0. Now, when you are building your model, it's always good you kind of pre-format your values, so that by the time you type them, you don't need to be doing adjustment. Maybe I type 500. Imagine I type 500,000 like this, right? This is how it's going to appear. Then every time I need to come to my home tab and use this comma thing. So, right, to avoid things like that, you can go to your cell style. You see this guy called cell style, and you can see this guy called normal. Under your cell style, you see this guy called normal. So if you right click, you'll be able to modify it. So by the time you click on modify, you see that everything you can see under this your font, your alignment, your number, you can see everything under this guy. Let me do it again. So don't worry, you don't need to click on any cell. Just don't need to click on any particular cell. So come to this your own tab. You see this guy cell style. Click on it, and you see different cell style that you have. So these are more like preset cell style. So I will share a video where you'll be able to understand this. So by default, everything is set to normal. So you can just right click. So you see apply, modify, duplicate. So click modify. So by the time you click on modify, it's going to open up this style for you. And you can see number set default by general, alignment, the front, the border, everything. So click on this format. So by the time I click on format, it will kind of open up this my format cell option for me. So you see difference. So number, currency. If you want to put everything, maybe just want everything to have that USD by default, right? You can decide to go with this. Maybe you don't want it to have decimal and everything just up. So everything in negative appear like this, right? With the currency in front of it. But if we just want to, okay, we don't want that. So you have like your accounting. So you have your accounting, you have your dates, you have your time, you have your percent, you have your fraction, sign. So difference. So you have your text, then you have your custom. So most time I always prefer to work with this custom, right? And there's one that kind of appear like this. So let me zoom out very well. So it just appear like this. So these are what we call syntax in Excel. So if you don't know this, please go back to the basic of Excel. So the first section before the semicolon, basically everything related to positive, this is going to appear. The second one after the first semicolon, from this red to this second end brackets, that's the way negative value will appear. So put comma, semicolon, and put dash in front of it. So anything like zero, instead of it to show as zero, show as dash. Right, and I can click on my OK and click on OK again. So by default, anytime I type anything, it just automatically put it like that. I don't need to go and be doing the adjustment every time. Right, so thinking my alter my year, I just need to put that back and remove the comma. Those ones are more like old number. So that appear like this, right? Okay. So type 0, so it's always good so that they kind of know that hey, can put value in any of the year. And what amount? So 250. So just type my 250. All right. And that's one of the reasons some people usually prefer to have the cell like a colored cell and maybe like a border around it. Right. So that's kind of easy for the users to understand that yes, you can actually input values in any of the period. As I said, for our home, let's just keep it without the background color. But make sure you type something like 0 so that it shows that they can put value in any of the period if they want to raise additional fund. Then what's our funding mix? So investors, so let's say equity contribution, and then loan. So maybe so let's be very explanatory. It's always good when you are building the model. So let's call this investment. Okay, let's call this funding, maybe funding mix. Yep, I think that's better. Then we know we have our equity, we have our loan, we have our total funding. So how much from equity? So equity is giving us 150. So 150. And then the loan is what? The loan is 100. So majorly can just use formula to get the difference, but let's just put the 100 directly. And here we sum both of them together, and they must give us the same thing, right? Must give us the same thing. All right. Simple like that. So up here, let's kind of put some text. So description, then maybe this give us units, and maybe this one is input, so that uh, the time we are scrolling up is kind of easy for someone to understand that this represents units, right? This for each period. So this should be 3.1. All right. So we've put our sources of funding, and the next thing will be our what? Will be our cost. Will be our cost of funding. Cost of funding. So will be our cost of funding. So for the loan, I put loan here. So loan period. So loan period will be, so loan problem will be for 4 years. So I think this should be years, right? Remember to put that in front. Then interest rates, which will be in percent. Do we have the interest rate? So the client is not sure of what the interest rate will be. But they're letting us know that, okay, you know what, we should be able to repay back in in 4 years, but we don't know the interest rate. Now, let me ask you, how do you think we can get an interest rate that we can use? Because I think the model will also help them to know if they can absorb certain amount of the loan or not. Anyone, how do you think we can get the interest rate? Now, the clients, they've not even given us. In fact, maybe the loan period, they are not even sure. The model will also guide them to say, okay, you know what, maybe they should just take the loan for 3 years, or maybe they should extend it to 5 years. So things like that. So how do you think we can get the interest rates? Anyone? Because these are cases where clients, they've not given you the data. Maybe it's the model we also help them in making those decisions. So WACC, okay, do we calculate WACC? How do we calculate WACC? What is WACC? From the prevailing, exactly. So I think the best option, all right, don't give yourself unnecessary headache. Just use the prevailing interest rate. So I think if you go to Google, right, and I type so USA business USA interest rates for business. Okay, yeah, for business, okay, for business loan. Let's assume that, and thankfully, um, AI is really doing a lot of work nowadays. So it kind of help you streamline the data to a direct response. So it's saying, as at March 2025, average US business loan interest rates range from around 6.3% to 12.45%, with online loans potentially having higher rates, while bank and SBA often offer lower rates but require stricter qualification. Right, so it just kind of give us like a range or like a bracket. So SBA loan, right, this loan backed by a small business administration can offer fixed or variable rates, with fixed rates typically ranging from 10 to 15 and variable from 10 to 15. So business line of credit, merchant cash advance, online business loan. So for our own, I think let's use 10%, right? And that's the reason why you're building the model. If the business can absorb up to this, if not, we know what to advise the clients. So let's say at 10% as well. Then the one for equity, I think our dividend payout ratio Client gave us that. Let's see. So 30%. So even if client does not know this, most times it's always peg around 46. So this one might want to do it on periodic, on yearly basis. Okay, so maybe in year one we don't expect them to pay anything. Year two, then maybe from year three, could be 30%, could be 40%. So it depends, right? So we said first year one, year two, allow the business to survive, right? And the rest. So any other thing we need, you can always come back here and include it. So you can see that it's quite straightforward. Structure your model in such a way that is very, very easy. But look very, very professional. You don't need to put unnecessary color. Keep it simple. If you prefer, as I said, some people prefer grid line, right? You can have your grid line, but I think without the grid line, it just look more like a plain book, right? And you have this. Okay, are we good? Are we good? Are we good? Now, for the next one, I think we are done with our funding and financing assumption. As I said, maybe by the time we start our model calculation build and we need any other thing, we can always come back. Remember, the concept is anything input should always be in your input section, anything hard coded. Then the next thing is we can talk about our capex and use of funds, right? Our capex and use of funds. So funding assumptions, I think we are done with that. Then now, okay, so maybe we can, I think we can put it under this. So maybe let's call this funding and use of fund assumptions, right? So use of funds, UF. So use of fund assumption. So funding and use of fund as well. I think this should not be called assumption. This should be called input. Right. Yeah, because we are sure of the data from where we got it from. That is the amount we want to release is an input. It's not an assumption. Okay, so now I think we should call this 3.3. Which I'm correct. Okay. 3.3. And this will be our use of funds. UOF, use of funds. Right. So I'm sure you should be able to do the same at your own site. I can even split my screen into two equal parts. So while I'm on this my PDF, if I press my window button with my left arrow, kind of minimize every other tab that I have open. I can click on my second worksheet. So I have both of them side by side. I can view both of them equal size on my screen. Okay. So now a breakdown. So business registration. They said so business registration, right? Then they have professional fee. I think our currency. So it's always good you link that to one single source. And then for period one, we also have the same data, right? So they said that would be £3,000 USD. Just try and copy this format so that you keep them. So this is registration and professional fee. So let's assume 154 registration and professional fee. Maybe let's just split them into two equal parts, right? Another period, just put 0 there. Okay. Then research. Okay, so they also have research and legal, right? Which that will cost them 25 USD. Okay. Then let me leave like a row. Then these are furniture and fittings. Then plant and equipment. then websites where people can get to see what they are doing. So furniture, that will be 15. That 15,000. Zoom down a bit. Okay, yeah, 15,000. So 15,000 for furniture, plant and equipment, 25. Please always check. I can make mistake. No one is above mistakes when it comes to model build, so that both of us don't end up having the wrong data. Then here, they're going to have like a marketing, then PRO. All right, just creating awareness. So for the marketing 30, that's a lot. PR 10. Oh, okay. That's a lot. Okay. Then let's have our inventory. So more like raw material and stuff like that. Right, so inventory will be 75. The marketing is on the high side. Well, let's leave that. Then insurance. So insurance of how much? 5,000. Then they have rent. Rent of 15,000. Okay. So let's check. I hope I've captured everything. Because the bad thing will be for a client to have given you a data and you still cannot extract the correct data. It's always good to do like proper self-review. Okay, so now I think we've extracted everything. Yeah. Then below it, I will now create something we call working cash. And what this working cash will do is to always help us balance our use of fund and the funding to be raised. So at times, maybe can have cases where the cash is even going into working cash, right? So maybe cash to run like day-to-day activity, meet up some expenses. Okay. Then below you can have our total use of funds, which must always be equal to our what? To our total investments to be raised in each particular period. Okay, and I'm sure you can see the segmentation that we are doing, right? So the first segment is more like what? Pre-operational expenses. Before you start a business, doing all this registration and all this fee. So the second segment is what? Our property, plant, and equipment. So what goes straight into our equipment, right? The third one is our awareness. And the last one is our what? Operations. So you can see that segmentation. If you decide, if you prefer, you can even put it up here. So um business, so maybe you call this pre-operational, right? Index this, and then the second one. So if you prefer to have this, so we call this property, plants, and equipment. So just that segmentation, just to make it look good. Then here, just so advertising and awareness, right? So set is always presentation and this, so pre. So let's call this. This will just be like operations. You have this. We must always look very, very good and very, very professional. Yes, part of what you are learning. Right? Anyone can pick it up and understand what is going on, what you've done, and how you've done it. Okay, so for my total use of funds, so if I sum everything up together from my business registration down to including that working cash, right? Everything supposed to be equal. So the total use of fund must always be equal to my working cash. Now you can see now that there's a gap, right? So 183, but the amount we are requesting for is 250. So which means we need to set up a formula that will always capture the remaining balance as working cash for running the day-to-day operation of the business. So to do that, I'll come into this, my working cash, right? And I'll type equal to my total funding that I'm requesting for, our total investments. So I think it's good to just pick it from our total funding, right? Minus the summation of all my costs that I've listed up here. So basically just trying to pick the difference. Right? And I'll press my enter. So anytime, so in case, so to be sure it's working, if you delete the inventory of 75, it automatically flow into the working cash. So that at every point, your total use of fund is always equal to your use of fund. So you cannot be requesting for, cannot say you are requesting for 250 and you are giving what you want to, you are listing out something of 150. Then they ask you, what are you doing with the differential, right? And it's always good like that. You preset it. So okay, even if they decide that, you know what, oh, maybe in year four, maybe you might be bringing in additional equity of, let's say, 50,000 USD, but it will be more for working cash, not for any capital expense or maybe for inventory. So what happens is it automatically, so if I copy the formula across, it automatically flows straight into our working cash. Maybe also out of the 50, maybe you want to get more inventory of maybe 25. So the balance just automatically flow in like that, right? So this is always good when you are building our model. And if no cash is included here, right, every other one can be financed via the business operational cash. And that's where we are going to have the other parts, which we are going to call maintainable capex. Right? Well, should we do that? Okay. Let's leave that to for the next when we are building our calculation schedule. All right. So see that this is quite straightforward and easy to understand. Right? So we've extracted our general macro assumption, financing assumption, our capex and use of fund. Now, your own next activity will be for you to extract our revenue, costs, and also our working capital. Then the next session, we are going to start with our calculation, output, and analysis. So please, attention to details, very, very important against our next session. Now we are getting to the very good parts of our learning. Now, your own activity against the next session, which must be submitted before Friday, please. I say, remember, I'm also working. I have a lot to attend to. So you don't want to keep me up till nights, right, when I'm supposed to be resting and be waiting for you to submit your activity. So now, as I said, I will share the recording of this. No, you cannot have my Excel file. I'll share the recording with you. Create your own. 2 tasks. 1, complete your own input schedule. Complete your input schedule. And I think we are at this stage, right? So we've extracted our up to financing, capital, and use of funds. So what you are doing is you're extracting these business operations. Now, wear the cap of a modeler. Those clients that are not giving us data, you definitely need to find a way and provide data. Yes, it's part of your work. You are building the model. And after that, right, the next thing you now need to do is in the document that has been shared with us. So if you check the site, the link I provided to us, right? If you check the link, there's one file called 3statements link. Now, please be attentive. Be attentive. You can still remove people, right? Be attentive. Now, you will, let me open that file. It's called 3statements linked template. So what we've done here is we've pre-created a layout of your 3 financial statements, right? We've pre-created a 3 financial statements, including income statements, balance sheets, cash flow. And what that means is, see, if I type sales of, let's say 50,000 here, right? And I come to my balance sheet, the balance sheet will always be balanced at any point. If I say, oh, I have operating expenses of minus 30. Once I type this, what happen automatically, my balance sheet automatically balanced because we've created this 3 financial statements link such that anything you insert automatically flow through the 3 financial statements. Okay, let me delete this. And also for your reference, if you also check this workbook, that accounting reports that you have to replicate for the forecast period, if you also check it, you see how each of the three statements, they've been linked together. Now, your own work is this. This 3 financial statement that has been created here, please do not move it. It is part of your learning. If you move it into your workbook, I will know. Now, it's part of your learning, right? After you've extracted your input, the next thing is for you to create your 3 financial statements output. As such, if you are doing the calculation for each line item, you automatically link it straight to your output. And this is always good in order to avoid the problem of your balance sheet not balancing. Trust me, is the least problem you want to face when you are building a model. You build a model and you are using almost 5 hours to find the reason why your model is not balanced. So to avoid things like that, once you set up your input, what you just do is you duplicate this particular worksheet, right? And maybe I'll call this guy output. I'll call this guy output, right? And this is my sample. I can just duplicate it. So maybe I will need to duplicate it like 3 times, right? Let's have them in separate worksheets. So this will become my income statement, or you can even call it P&L, anyone, right? Then I'll call this my balance sheet, BS, and I'll call this one my cash flow statement. Okay, and all I need to do is to come here, right? I'll call this my financial output. Then here is my income statement, or let's call it profits or loss accounts, anyone you prefer. Don't mind us accountants, we just have different. All I need to do is to look through what has been done here. So I can just copy all this line item, copy them, put it here, paste as values, right? Then you can do like you see the way we've set this up, do your professional adjustments. Then look at how we've done all this line item. So my operating expenses, if you think, you can just decide to just work smart. That's just the main thing. But I think they have, the worksheet has different, I think, but check if they have the same front cell style, the same font. So I think it's Calibri 10 here. If you check here, is it the same thing? So if they have the same front, then that would be a very good thing for you. So which means you can just do like copy and paste, but don't move. Don't move. So I think they are almost the same. So I can just copy this and paste it here. Right? But don't move. So which means I've created my income statement. What is supposed to be P&L, by the way. Right? So go to your P&L, do balance sheets, and make sure that everything is linked the way they've been linked here. Right? So if I come to my cash flow, you see that the cash flow is coming from operating profit is coming from operating profit in income statement. Depreciation is coming from income statement. Changes is coming from what we have below here for you to calculate your changes in net working capital. Interest, income, tax pay. So everything they've been linked already. So your own is to make sure you recreate the same thing inside your model and send it to me. So by the time you send your own, it will be replicated. I will share my own version with you so that you can make adjustments and we can help you on the same page against the next session. I hope that is crystal clear. So two things, right? Two things. Extract your inputs, right? Complete your inputs, assumptions, then go ahead with the document that you've been given, right? These three financial statements, as I said, you can test it and you see that everything is working perfectly, right? Recreate this same thing in your model so that by the time we are just doing our calculation, as you are linking at every point, you can check that your balance sheet is balanced, and that will limit that error of saying when you're done with the model B, now start looking for where the mistake or error is coming from. So as you are doing the calculation, you are posting. If it's not balanced, it's easy for you to trace that, it is this particular line item that is causing this imbalance. All right. Any question before we call it a session? Okay, so I'll take that as no. So I'm going to share the recording with you. I'm definitely not sharing my work file with you. So by the time you are done, you send your workbook, then I will share my own updated workbook with you so that you can recheck and be sure that yes, we are on the same page before our next session. All right. So thank you, everyone. Someone is saying, let me see if I can still see the link in the chat box. The document, I guess people that came a bit late. Do we copy? Do we only copy the empty 3 column? No calculation. Ngozi, I was crystal clear. How you just copy the empty 3 worksheet? I said the 3 worksheets has been created in such a way that if you link your revenue, but everything balances. So, all right. So please, this time, instructions and how you've tackled the instruction given will also be considered. So please, do a lot of self-review, right, and make sure you've done what you've been asked to do. By the time you create that 3 financial statements, make sure you test it to be sure that you put something in the revenue, the balance sheet is balanced. You put something in the cost of sales, operating expenses, and you are sure that they are all linked properly and they are working perfectly. Right. So I thank you, everyone, and think we can call it a session here, and we'll see you in our next session. So the recording, I will drop the link in the group chat for you to access it. Right. Okay. So thank you, everyone, and I think we can call it a session here today, and we'll see you in our next session. So once again, thanks to everyone, and please make sure you enjoy the rest of the weekend.